The King's Avatar, Chapter 1159 What Shouldn't Be Here. Audio source, wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1159, What Shouldn't Be Here. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. By getting out of Happy's pincer attack, 100 Blossoms had escaped from their biggest kriss. Even though they were running away, they weren't rushed or muddled, and their speed wasn't that fast either. They had no intentions of completely shrugging off Happy. Team 100 Blossoms clearly had a plan in mind. In the team's class composition, Yufeng's Berserker and Zhou Guangyi's Assassin were close-range combatants. As for Happy, their unspecialized launcher and Chi Master had mid-ranged and long-ranged capabilities. Ghost Blades had a slightly shorter range, but Ghost Blades still had superior range compared to Berserkers and Assassins. Ghost boundaries could be placed up to 13 units away. If 100 Blossoms insisted on breaking away from Happy, they would suffer quite a few losses even if they succeed. After breaking away, if Yufeng and Zhou Guangyi wanted to go on the offensive, breaking through the enemy side's long-range blockade would be an issue. However, since they had just gotten out of the pincer, the distance between the two sides wasn't too far, so their Berserker and Assassin could quickly become threats if need. Team 100 Blossoms looked to be running away, but in actuality, they were waiting. They were adjusting their formation and waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. Everyone was focused, waiting for that moment to appear. It's here. With a glance at their surroundings, everyone in 100 Blossoms immediately became understood that their opportunity had arrived. Turn. Yufeng didn't miss this timing and gave out an order in the chat. Zhou Yuan's Bright Blossoms was the first to turn. His gunfire poured down onto Happy. Mo Chuchen's Cleric, Arrogant Flowers, rolled behind an enormous rock to the side and readied himself to provide healing and support to his team. Zhu Xiaoping's Wind Carving stood behind Bright Blossoms. He summoned an Undead Knight as a shield for them and followed with a Demon World Flower. Yufeng and Zhou Guangyi, the two close combat classes, need to utilize the cover from their allies to enter the enemy ranks. Blossoming Chaos and Cold Seasons, one on the left, the other on the right, a Xing cut, to rapidly dash forward. However, they were met with two rays of light. One from a launcher's laser beam, the other from a Chi Master's sky-piercing strike, one on the left, the other on the right, to welcome these two. The two were startled. Could at least switch directions. Blossoming Chaos immediately slashed again to the side, letting him just narrowly dodge the laser beam. Cold Seasons, on the other hand, was out of luck. Xingcut could not turn midway through. Forcefully cancelling it and then moving wasn't as fast as which let the user turn as a built-in ability. Sky-piercing strike connected squarely with Cold Seasons, creating a huge chi wave. Xingcut didn't need to be forcefully cancelled as it was interrupted. Cold Seasons was thrown into the broken river. There was no way to quick recover on the water, so Cold Seasons dropped in with a splash. Bright Blossom's attacks failed to make enough of a disturbance. Lord Grimm's huge umbrella, which was far larger than a normal shield, gave them their answer. It didn't need to be open for long. It just needed to shield at the crucial moment to allow Dancing Rain and Boundless Sea to get their skills off in time. Everyone in 100 Blossoms was depressed. Using a shield to provide cover, it was such an ordinary tactic, but unfortunately, they neglected it because the other team didn't have a knight. Even though they had studied Lord Grimm's unspecialized, without practical experience fighting against him, it was hard to fully bring what was in their mind into reality. In that quick change of pace, they had overlooked this point. But by the time they realized it, the error had been made. Bright Blossom's attacks were ineffective, thus the assault by Yufeng and Zhou Guangyi was completely countered. Zhou Guangyi's Cold Seasons was thrown into the river, and so there was no need to talk about the completeness of Hundred Blossoms' offensive right now. Zhu Xiaoping immediately had his undead knight push forward to be a shield for them, when everyone suddenly noticed something from the corner of their eyes. They took a glance and saw a satellite beam descending from the sky, directly towards Arrogant Flower, who was hiding behind a rock. Arrogant Flower staggered out. Half of his body had been burnt black. A mess. It's a complete mess. They hadn't noticed Dancing Rain's attack at all. Lord Grimm's umbrella was just that big. It had completely blocked their line of sight towards Dancing Rain. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash also leaped out at this moment. A ghostly light dropped from the tip of his sword, and an ice boundary formed. The edge of it just happened to sweep past the Demon World Flower. The Demon World Flower was incapable of moving, so it could only take on the persistent damage from Ice Boundary. Not long afterwards, it was frozen into an ice cube. Suddenly, Lord Grimm charged out. In the previous second, he had been holding his shield up. In the next second, he became a close combat attacker that Happy didn't originally have. Dragon Tooth, Falling Flower Palm. The Battle Mage 2-hit combo landed on the Undead Knight. The Undead Knight was naturally hardy though. A dragon breaks the ranks only made it slide back. The stun and knockback effects from these two low-level skills were simply unable to move it. However, Lord Grimm closed in another step and wrapped his arms around it, lifting the heavy Undead Knight into the air. There were situations where a grappler's grab failed, but the Undead Knight was not one of them. With a back throw, the Undead Knight slammed into the ground. The instant that heavy body hit the ground, a loud sound boomed. The resulting shockwave was twice as large as a normal target, and it just happened to reach the frozen Demon World Flower, instantly shattering it. Lord Grimm charged forward again. Yu Feng's Blossoming Chaos moved forward to block him, but Dancing Rain's support immediately arrived. After Yishu changed classes, the synergy between the best partners hadn't lessened. Yu Feng also had teammates, but the level of coordination between them couldn't compare to that between Yishu and Sumucheng. When they tried to help, it felt like they couldn't keep up with the pace. I can't rely on other people helping. I'm the core of the team. Yu Feng was unwilling to back down. Blossoming Chaos's two eyes suddenly turned scarlet red. Despite being under the enemy's suppression, he activated Berserk to forcefully make a counter-attack. Soul-devouring Crimson Grip. After activating Berserk, Blossoming Chaos's speed increased dramatically. His left hand grabbed towards Lord Grimm. But as soon as his hand touched, Lord Grimm was unable to endure this grab and puffed into smoke. Shadow Clone Technique. Even though Shadow Clone Technique was a low-level skill and had a quick hand seal, a hand seal still had to be formed. When did Yishu form it? Yu Feng discovered that he didn't know. Where did Lord Grimm go? Yu Feng immediately had Blossoming Chaos turn around. He saw Lord Grimm's true body run towards Wind Carving and use his close combat capabilities to bully the weak summoner. Blossoming Chaos immediately raised his sword and was about to rush over, when a force suddenly pulled at him from behind. His body involuntarily flew backwards. Fuck. Yu Feng cursed inwardly. WuxaWorldAudio.com. At the same time, he saw Yishu's Lord Grimm turn around decisively, leaving Bright Blossom's explosive attacks behind him. Cloud Grasping Fist. Yu Feng didn't need to turn around to know that this was Fang Rui's doing. What just happened? In the previous second, he was struggling to break the suppression from Yishu and Sumucheng. But by the time he acted, Yishu suddenly switched targets to their summoner. As a result, Yu Feng reacted instantly by chasing after him, but then, Fang Rui sneakily made his move, pulling 100 Blossoms' core into their ranks. After being pulled into the enemy ranks, what would the result be? Every pro player knew all too well. They would become the target of their attacks. That was the only possibility. In front of Boundless Sea, Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash had stacked up several ghost boundaries, ones that lowered enemy defenses, ones that dealt damage, one that buffed allies. The instant Blossoming Chaos landed, before he could even turn around, Boundless Sea jabbed at him with his finger and then with another finger. It was the Chi Master's level 75 skill, Pulse Break, Break Intelligence, Break Strength. At the same time, Little Cold Hand's Holy Commandment landed, immersing him inside its light. That wasn't all. Blossoming Chaos was still inside his berserk mode. His defenses were already drastically weakened. The rest of 100 Blossoms obviously wasn't going to just sit there and watch. Cold Seasons had just gotten out of the water and went to rescue Blossoming Chaos, disregarding everything else. A boom sounded. Zhou Guangyi, who had been solely focused on rescuing, didn't notice Dancing Rain's cannon pointing at him. She predicted his movements and shot a missile towards him. Splash! Cold Seasons fell into the water again. As for Bright Blossom's gunfire and wind carvings summons, Happy completely ignored them. Kill. The debuffs and buffs from the ghost boundaries, the Chi Master's Pulse Break, the Cleric's Holy Commandment, and Blossoming Chaos's own Berserk piled on top of each other. Finally, Happy's frenzy of attacks arrived. Blossoming Chaos, Team 100 Blossoms Core, the former #1 Berserker that had become #1 again after Yufeng inherited it, was instantly killed. Nothing could be worse for 100 Blossoms than their core character meeting its end, and in such a short instant too. Blossoming Chaos was already gone from the shores of Broken River. For that instant kill, Happy had attacked with everything they had, leaving the ground full of scars. Attack. Yufeng was no longer there. Thus, as the vice-captain, Zhou Yuan immediately took lead. He could see that even though Happy's wave of attacks had killed Blossoming Chaos, they had messed up their rhythm to achieve it. Nearly all of them had used high-level skills and were in the middle of their ending animation. It was an opportunity for 100 Blossoms to stage a counter-attack. After giving out the order, Bright Blossoms stepped forward. Bang 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 bang. The noise wasn't from gunfire, but the crisp sounds of ice colliding. Bright Blossoms, wind carving, an arrogant flower had frozen into ice, immovable blocks of ice. There was only one skill that had 100% chance of instantly freezing the target's hit. The Elementalist's Ice Line. A skill, which wasn't in accordance with the present class compositions, had appeared. It had been cast without any of them knowing either. As a result, as soon as the three moved, they immediately went into contact with Ice Line and instantly became frozen.